Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Pathways Virtual Academy. It has been quite a while since I've been here. In fact, the last video, I did one about a week and a half ago, a short one, but the last full-length video I did was back in April of this year. I have been out in the wilds, working the paths and growing the beard. I have the beard to show that it's been a while. If you look at the other videos, it's rather short. This is what I am calling today best practices. Essentially, we have had Pathways now for a year and a half. And what do we know about it? Well, we know quite a bit now. I have come across a lot of really intriguing and interesting challenges in Pathways, as well as some wonderful discoveries. A few of those I want to share with you, and then we are going to dive in specifically to look at several of those issues and some additional alternate ways to work with Pathways. The first of which is we can now use our mobile phones to do Pathways. This is huge, because when Pathways rolled out, we could not do it on any type of smart device, especially a mobile device. You could use a tablet, you could use a laptop computer, you could drag your desktop computer into your meeting if you so desired, but not on your mobile phone. This has changed. Just within the last 2 months, I noticed that I've been able to navigate the pop-up windows specifically for the projects on my phone. That was the stopping point. I could always get to the website, and I could manipulate things by making the screen larger and smaller. But once that pop-up window opened with the project in it, I could no longer move between the screens because I couldn't resize the window. Well, now that window takes up the full screen, and I'm able to swipe left or right with my finger and move between the screens and interact. This is big because, as many of you know, most everything you do out in the real world is on your phone, unless it's not on your phone. I do my banking on my phone. I take pictures with my phone. I harass my cats with my phone. I take videos of my cats with my phone. Anyway, I'm doing a lot of things on my phone. So it's wonderful now that we can use the mobile devices to do Pathways, because I find that using a phone in a club meeting isn't as personally disruptive for me as using a tablet or a laptop computer. I don't feel as connected to a meeting if I have a computer or a larger device in front of me. But if I'm doing something quick on the phone, if I need to get in and move around, it's not as bad. It feels less invasive, might be the term that I'm using. But either way, the newer members that I have seen in several of the clubs are using phones and are interacting with phones really well as far as Pathways. I've checked. I have a Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus. I've also checked with somebody who has the newest iPhone. And I also checked with, I'm trying to remember the model number. We also checked the other one. But there are 3 different models that I've confirmed that can work quite well. So they have updated something in their system and online so that we can use phones. Fantastic. I love that fact. Okay, the second item on my list, although I did see a little pop-up blurb for a text, although it went away. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? I'm going to look at my text window real quick here. All right, good to go. The second item on my multiple best practices and consideration lists, as you can see right there, I highly encourage you to do multiple paths at the same time. Now, I'm not saying that you should shell out all the money and just because you want to do that. No. The reason why I suggest to do multiple paths is that when you get to levels 4 and 5 in the path that you're working on, the projects you're working on are much longer. They can take between 6 months to a year, sometimes even a little bit more, to finish working through a project until you get to the point where you're presenting information to your club. And what do you do in the meantime? If you have this long project you're working on, for example, writing a blog, or developing that social media presence, or for that matter, doing webinars. Whatever the long project it is, I would suggest starting another path so that you've got levels 1, 2, and 3 you can do the shorter speeches in. That way, while you're working on the longer project, you can bounce back and grab an icebreaker or a research and presenting and work your way, start into another path so that when you've finished a path, you've got another one set up ready for you to go into one of the longer elective projects. That way you can juggle several different paths at one time and get the benefit of all of those while still feeling very involved in your club. One of the issues that I found was that I got further into presentation mastery. I didn't feel like I was as involved in the club because I wasn't doing presentations as often as I was doing them with the Competent Communicator manual or some of the advanced manuals. So I found that by picking up 2 additional paths and working the earlier levels of those, it helped me get over that gap of, I've got this long period of time that I'm not doing anything in the club. I'm learning something for myself, but I didn't feel like I was connected. So this is giving me that opportunity to feel connected again. So that's what I mean by doing multiple paths at the same time. The third suggestion, and this is, as I say in parentheses here, only if you like the hard copy, print out your manuals. Because even though we can do pathways on our phones now, and of course on electronic devices, I'm a bit of a throwback. I still like hard copy. I like the fact that I've got my manual and that it has the evaluation form in it as well as the other forms, so that I have this copy in case I lose my internet connection, which where I live can happen quite a bit. So I am happy to be able to print out the manuals. Once you signed into Basecamp, you have access to printing out all of the material that they give you inside of your path. If you like hard copy and if you like keeping that stuff, by all means, print your manuals out. Now, you don't have to print out the entire manual just to get to the evaluation resource, and I can point out exactly where those are when we go to the website and just kind of start diving into things here. Okay, the fourth item on my list, and we're flying through these fast real quick before we get to some questions and interactions, is what I suggest: plan your approach to your path. Now, I've done multiple training sessions around the district, and I keep getting real similar questions. And one of those questions that is always being asked me is, how come I have to do another icebreaker? Didn't I just do one? Why do I have to do another one at the beginning of this path too? Okay. Every path starts with an icebreaker. No matter where you start, you're always doing an icebreaker. As opposed to saying, why do I have to do another icebreaker? My suggestion to you is look at the path you're doing. For example, my first path was presentation mastery. So my icebreaker was more about my theater background. But then when I started doing strategic relationships, I decided that I wanted to focus the projects that I was doing more towards the nature of that path. So the icebreaker I did for strategic relationships talked about my fear of networking events. And this is what I mean by plan your approach to the path. If you are learning about visionary communication because you are not a good visionary communicator, myself, I am in that category, then it does me no good be doing projects in the path that has nothing to do with what I need to be learning. So by forcing yourself to figure out, okay, how does this project, this icebreaker, or this research and presenting project, or even this evaluation project, how can I make this dovetail a little bit more into the path that I'm working on so that I can challenge myself, make it something new, and keep it interesting at the same time? That's what I mean by plan your approach to your path. When you get into, like, for example, if you decide to write a blog and your path is on coaching, Well, it would kind of make sense to me to take the blog material and the coaching material and try and work them together. The struggles of being a coach and writing about that. If you're working on a coaching path and you create a blog about making chocolate chip cookies in your kitchen and how well everybody loves your baking, that may be a fantastic blog, but I don't think you're going to be challenging yourself to learn what you wanted to learn when you picked that path in the first place. So try to plan that approach to whichever path that you are taking. And if you're having trouble coming up with ideas of, how do I make this icebreaker about interpersonal relationships? Ask a few people. Get some ideas. Be creative. If you aren't creative, find someone who is. When it comes to strategic relationships and networking events, believe me, I have talked to a lot of people about networking events because I hate them. I prefer to be doing something, and at networking events, I end up talking to the potted plants. So I get a lot of feedback to make sure that I can handle that. Okay, the fifth item, which is new, I've added in. I talked about the other four in a previous video. This is for clubs specifically. I have found in looking at the Pathways material so far that we essentially only have two club roles. There is a table topics master and an evaluator. Now, unlike the legacy program where we had the competent leadership manual where club roles were incentivized because you could earn your competent leadership and then go on into the leadership track, the club roles under Pathways don't have a project attached to them. Several of the training events that I've gone to, I've gotten the same question on this, is how do we get people to take these roles? Everybody just wants to speak because they've got a project where they need to give a speech. How do I get somebody to be an evaluator? How do I convince somebody to be a Toastmaster? Now, you would think that possibly having an incentivized position, especially inside of a manual, would work out really well. Well, that's what they did with the Competent Leadership Manual. But as many people know who have been in Toastmasters, a lot of people forgot to bring their manuals to the meetings. So even though you were doing a role, you forgot to bring the manual to get the evaluation to get credit for it. So now that manual is out of the way. My suggestion is for each individual club, come up with a way to incentivize, to encourage people to take on the roles inside of the club. Now, some of the solutions that I've heard, one club said that before they gave the icebreaker, they wanted them to fulfill a minimum of 3 club roles. So they've got this layout of exactly what they need to do before they give a speech. Well, they don't just throw them in there. They give them a mentor and have that mentor sit with them through each of those roles and prepare them for them just as much as they would prepare them for an icebreaker. And that's one approach. Another club, every time somebody does a role, they get their name into a jar, and after a period of time, they draw out names and give awards for that. Whatever method you end up choosing, I suggest that the club officers really look at the possibility of making those club roles some type of, I don't know, not extracurricular, but something beyond the assigned roles of speaking, because they don't show up as much in Pathways as we have seen previously. And this, I'm pretty much going to leave that to the clubs. I get feedback, and some of it sounds really good. Some of it doesn't sound all that good to me, but it works really well. So every club has a different culture. Everybody has a different way of encouraging participation. And that is the primary goal, especially in the club. You want to encourage participation because the more people are involved in the club and the more people are involved in Pathways, the more they're going to learn and the more they're going to want to come back and maybe tell a few people about it on the side, if you know what I mean. Bringing other people into the club. Okay, so that is the main rundown of the 5 points. And I saw some, boom, boom, boom. There's my chat window. We'll look real quick here. And of course, I'm not wearing my reading eyeballs. I got to get my reading eyeballs out here because I'm old. Got the old going on. Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, now that we've got that, we are going to jump live and talk a little bit more about, not Zoom. Nope, not that one yet either. We're going to go to Toastmasters. Here we go. Toastmasters International front page, everybody's good and favorite friend. What I want to show you here is a different way to get to Pathways. The vast majority of people know that once you log in, or maybe you don't know, once you log in, you use this Pathways tab, has a drop-down menu, and you can access your path through Basecamp or take the assessment, go to Basecamp, pick a path. Pretty much all of these take you to the same place. They take you to the front page of the Pathways learning experience. Then you have to log in as member, then you access your transcript, then you go into your project. Now that is about 6 or 7 clicks of the mouse just to get into your transcript. An easy way around that is to click on your name, which then brings up your own profile, and click on the Go to My Transcript under Pathways right here. Once you click on the Go to My Transcript, this takes you inside of Pathways directly to your educational transcript. So you're bypassing the learning window, you're bypassing the intro window, and you're bypassing the secondary transcript window to get right in here. So that's saving, about 3 or 4 clicks. Oftentimes, that is a big deal, especially when you're navigating. So once you're inside of your transcript, you can then open up whichever path you're working on and go directly to the work. So once again, I'll show you real quick here. If we can back out of that, it'll pop me. Oh, it's going to stick me right back to trans. Yeah, okay. All right. So we're going to have to go back the other way. If you want to know how to get back from inside of Pathways back to Toastmasters main page, you can do it by either clicking this little house icon here or hovering over home and clicking home. Then at the bottom of the main Basecamp page is a return to Toastmasters Pathway start page. Hyperlink, click on that, takes you right back to the server where Toastmasters is. Once again, you get into the shortcut that I'm showing you here. You go through your profile, scroll down so that you get to your transcript, click on your transcript, and you're in. You're in one, as they say. Okay. Now, let's go back to the home page here. All right. This is the home page, Basecamp Manager. Many of us have gotten extremely familiar with it. Tonight, I want to tell you about a few resources you may not be as familiar with, or you may not have stumbled into yet. The first and foremost, which I hope many people have already discovered, is this 5th button down here, which is the speech evaluations. By far, the best button that is around. It takes you directly to every single evaluation form for every single project in every single path. It's all right here, and you can get it in almost every single language. As you can see, they're all listed alphabetically here. They're not listed by path, name, or project number. No, just the title. So all you need to know is the title of the project, and you're able to come in here and find it. Like right there is my nemesis, make connections through networking. They put it right in the middle. It's taunting me right there. Anyway. Okay, so then we got connect with your audience, creating podcasts. If you want any of these things, even if you're not working the path, you can have access to the evaluation resource. You click on it, it launches a training detail, and then you're able to launch the evaluation form itself, which opens in a pop-up window. Voila! There's the pop-up window, which you can then download to your computer. You can print from here. You can't type into it. It's not editable in this format. You have to download it to your computer, open in Adobe Acrobat or whichever PDF viewer that you use. Adobe Acrobat is, well, it's pretty much everywhere. Then you have the form itself is editable because you can type in the boxes and you can fill in all sorts of lovely information. So once you get it to your computer, you can type in and use it. Print it out, save it. You can save multiple copies, email it to people, print it out like hard copy. I do that. I take my evaluations forms into my meetings and hand them to my evaluators because oftentimes they don't get them ahead of time. And I look at it as my responsibility as a speaker to take the evaluation form myself. Okay, so evaluations was the first one, which can be found on the home page on this fifth button under speech evaluations. The next little known aspect is what is called an external training request. Yes, and you're asking me, what is an external training request? I'm glad you asked. An external training request, anytime you do a speech outside of your club, you are ostensibly to get permission from your vice president of education before doing so. And you put in the external training request so the vice president of education can say, yes, you may speak at external training event and I will record it and I bequeath upon, etc. How do you find those? Well, simple enough. Go into your educational transcript and you see this lovely little 3-dot button up here. I've always looked at that thing and gone, what is that thing there for? So you click on it. Add external training. Well, the external training here then opens a form that you can fill out and send to your VPE to get permission to do the external training request. Now, I say permission with air quotes because I've usually found that it's easier to get forgiveness than permission, especially when it comes to giving speeches outside the club. So what I use the external training request for is essentially a tracking for me of doing projects outside my club. Right here, you see this little kind of map with a red dot stuck in it, a pin? This is what the external training request looks like. And I created one when I did a Pathways presentation, as you can see, in Vancouver some time ago. I haven't marked it complete yet because I use it for reference. In here, I had all the information for when I did it, what path it was tied to, and what level it was tied to. For me, that ends up being helpful because my clubs keep track of speeches, but oftentimes I'll forget to put the external ones in there. So this is a way that I'm able to figure out, oh yeah, that's right, I did this at such and such an event, and I did it, and I got credit for it. So that is the external training request. And man, I am rambling like crazy. By the way, I did forget to mention that if you have questions, you can interrupt me if I pause for a long enough breath. That was a pause. Anyway, if you have questions, by all means, let me know. And you can always send it in through the chat. Or you can, oh, I've got a chat one right here. Okay, the question is, external training request, does it need to be video recorded? Now, my assumption, Susan, when you say that is, do you need to have evidence that you gave this speech at an external event? According to Toastmasters International, you can give a speech at an external event if two things happen. Number one, you get permission from your VPE to do the training or the speech. And number two, if you have another Toastmaster in attendance that is able to give you an evaluation. So you don't necessarily need to video them, but it's good to have somebody there with you. Now, granted, I suppose if you don't have somebody there who can video you, give you an evaluation, then maybe by doing a video, you can get an evaluation later on. Enter the eval in, where do you enter the eval in Pathways? Okay, thank you very much. Now, once you have printed out your evaluation form and completed your project, many people, and I'm just all over the place, totally great question. What do you do with this after you have it? Pretty much whatever you want to do with it, really. I keep them in my folder because I have a folder for evaluations that I receive from other people. It used to be thought that you would upload it back into Pathways, that was a requirement, that you had to put somehow the evaluation into Pathways. No, that's the short answer. No is the long answer as well. You do not need to upload an evaluation back to Pathways. There is no requirement that you do so. And in fact, there is no way for anybody to verify that you. Okay, the next question. Does Pathways not work on all mobile devices? I cannot view all content on my device. Okay, and you're using a Pixel, oh, that's Pixel XL. That's the actual name. Okay, that's not the phone. I have been able to figure out that it works on the Samsung S9 Plus, as well as a couple of models of iPhone, and man, I can't remember the other model. What I did have to do to be able to get all of the information to be able to show, I had to go into my settings and to make sure that the top message bar and the bar that had the web address would disappear. So there was an auto setting that made some of those menu bars disappear. And once those were gone, I had access to the full screen and I could see the stuff that was being hidden or occluded by the menu bar or by the function bars. You may have to play around with that a little bit to see where those are. Hopefully they've been able to work that in so that multiple devices are able to do that. Now, I don't think there's anything terribly different about the Android-based phones in all of their variants packages. I know that there is a huge difference between the Android and the iPhone, and they've got to code those separately because of the way they show up. But by knowing that they work on the Samsung and knowing they work on the iPhones, I think they pretty well have both of those covered. I am not 100% certain about the Google phones, but considering they use an Android base, should kind of hopefully work. What I would encourage you to do is figure out if it works on your phone. If it doesn't, or if it does, send me a message and let me know what phone it is, and then I can make sure to share with other people if they're running into the same problem, or even how you fix the message would be great. I would love to know how you managed to work out some of those. Okay, then we got a question here. New to Pathways. It seems like you can't move forward in project until you finish the icebreaker. Yes, indeed it is. How do you tell Pathways that you finished it? I thought this was related to the evaluations. Okay, perfect. Good question. And no, it's not really related to the evaluations. It is related to getting that lovely little red check mark in your educational transcript. Now, I just clicked on my educational transcript, and it brings up all of the resources that I've opened and looked at. And I have looked at quite a few of them, so you can ignore most of all of those. The little icon, this folder with the disk sticking out of it, those are the evaluation resources. This one we talked about is the external training request. This screen is a video that I looked at. The stack of books is always going to be your path. So those are the ones you're going to look at. And I've got 2 that are active right now, as well as still have the Pathways Guide one open to me. So let's look at my nemesis, strategic relationships, opening the curriculum, which will take me directly into, you can see that I've done level 1 and level 2. Now in level 1, you can see these lovely little red check marks. I tell you, this is the most challenging thing with Pathways that I've run into, is how to get those little red check marks to show up. And once you figure it out, it makes perfect sense. But getting to that point, oh, that's a challenge. I love it. All right. If we're going to look at level 3, let's see here. And how do we make this? I'm going to see if we can actually do it right here to show you. Which one have I done? Trying to remember which one it was. Oh, yeah, it was the Connect with the Audience. Okay, this is a project that I've already completed, but I haven't come back in and done the completion or the rest of the information. So I am launching the project as if I was going to do it over again. And when you relaunch a project, it should take you exactly to the window you were at when you closed it. In theory, that's worked so far, so we'll see. And there, yeah, see, because I closed it on my assignment window. All right, you have several ways to navigate on these windows. You've got the chevron buttons on either side that take you forward and back on pages, as well as you have the drop down right here at the bottom, which you can look at, your introduction, etc. The first time through this, competencies, evaluation, assess your skills. You're looking for the assess. Oh, it's right there. Assess your skills before. Okay. So the first time through this, when you come into a project at the beginning, you have an assess your skills before section where it offers you a series of 5 questions and asks you to rate yourself on them. Well, you do that. You select your numbers, and I've done that already because it's already got the numbers set up in there. The next time, usually Then you work your way through and you end up on the page, this right here, where you can print your project and get your evaluation resource. So what you do is once you've done your assess your skills before, print your project or your evaluation, either way, if you want, hard copy, great. Then get with your VPE, schedule your speech, give your speech, then come back to Pathways. Once you have completed your speech, relaunch your project, which will put you right back on this screen right here. Then you want to move one screen to the right, which will be the assess your skills after. So then you answer these questions by actually reading and answering, as opposed to just randomly picking a series of numbers like I'm doing here to save time. You pick these numbers, and then once you have all of them, make sure to click this submit button right here. You click the submit, it shows you what your numbers were before, and it shows you what your numbers are after, kind of a self-check for you. Now, this is important because if you don't do this, you won't be able to complete the project and get that little red check mark. So once you've done that and submitted, click the right button one more time. This will take you to the congratulations window. This window means that you have completed the project. You have done all of those other things, or you've navigated to it. But make sure you do the assess your skills before and the assess your skills after. If I move this out of the way, you can see, and which one we open? Connect with audience. There is no red check mark right here. Not yet. Once I am in this window, once I get to this location, close the window. Hit the big red X in the corner. Close it. Don't just minimize it. Don't let it go to the background. You want to actually close that window. Once you close the window, Pathways does a refresh. It looks for new information. It will blink, as you see right here, refreshes. My percentage went up, and I now have a little red check mark right next to connect with your audience. This is how you complete a project in Pathways. Assess your skills before, assess your skills after, go to the congratulations window, then close it. And you should get that red check mark at that point. So you don't need to upload an evaluation form. You do not need to track any other type of evaluation form. In fact, there is no place to enter speech title, speech date, speech location, or even the weather that the speech was given on. No. All it wants to know is if you completed those assessing skills and then you close the window. Now, it would make sense that you keep all of the information that you want separately, as opposed to putting it inside of Pathways, which you do not need to do. So hopefully that answered that question. I'm going to race back up here to the chat window because there's a whole bunch more chats that I haven't looked at. Okay, what do we got? Many members of my club prefer the legacy material because you can see the whole path and understand. Yes, I completely agree with you. From the CC and CL, can members look ahead in past to figure out the requirements before completing each level? No and yes. In other words, inside, in here, right in this, inside of Pathways on Toastmasters International, I am not able to look at any of the projects inside of level 4 or level 5 because I haven't completed level 3 yet. Yes, that is frustrating. I'd like to know what those projects are before I get there. This is where we go to external information that other Toastmasters in the world facing this same challenge have decided, hey, we need more information. I'll show you where it is. On the D7 Toastmasters webpage, which is d7toastmasters.org, we have a tab. It's right there. It's the Pathways tab. Once you click the Pathways tab, that brings up our version of Pathways Learning Center. And for those of you who don't know, District 7 is Western Oregon, Southwestern Washington, Northern California. So if you're in any of those areas, you're in District 7. I had several people who didn't know what district they were in. So this is District 7's website. This is where we've put the information. Right here is a 10-page description of Pathways and core competencies. But if you want to know what each of the projects are and what's involved in every single project before you get there, right here is your big mama. The Pathways Project Catalog. It is a 67-page interactive PDF that talks about every single project, what you have to do in every single project, and has hyperlinks to take you directly to them. This is one you can download directly to your own computer and interact with or share with other people. There are also, and I'm trying to remember the district that did it. I think it was Singapore, but I'm not sure about the district number. There are some really, really awesome interactive websites on other districts that take you through the projects and show you exactly where they are. If your club uses EasySpeak, EasySpeak will also let you look ahead at the projects to find out how long is the speech, what exactly am I doing to get there. So EasySpeak is a tracking system that clubs use to track members' progress. The PDF that we have here was one that we grabbed that another district had created, and we're making it available for everybody. So hopefully that answers that question. Okay, and wow, I got to scroll up a little bit because I'm behind on chat. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, completion is self-reporting. Yes, there is a lot of trust in the self-reporting that is Pathways. Now, if perhaps you are the type of individual that prefers to cheat at solitaire, you can complete an entire path if you have a willing VPE that signs off on everything and never assumes that you've actually done a speech. Yes, it is possible to go all the way through and never give a single speech just by checking things off. Now, if your VPE actually does that, there might be a different type of club culture problem going on. But because Pathways is self-guided, self-learning, it is self-educational. So this is where you keep yourself accountable and you learn at your own pace. There are no Pathways policemen that I have found yet. There are a few that want to be, but I haven't found any official Pathways policemen. Absolutely not. Okay, self-reporting similar to legacy. Yeah, it is. Self-reporting very similar to legacy material. We trust that people are doing the work that they do. Okay, there are, as I said, many different places to find other information on the internet. The interwebs are so full of stuff, including cat videos, that you can find stuff on Pathways that is good. Other districts are answering the exact same questions that we are, because now Pathways has rolled out around the entire world. So everybody's doing the paths, and everybody is finding ways to answer those frustrating little questions about what's ahead. Great. So now I'm going to show you another feature that you may or may not be familiar with. No. I'm going to go on here. We got resources. All right. So we've got these PDFs at the top here, which we have access to. Below those are videos, Pathways videos that are specifically related to issues that people are running into in Pathways. For example, the two-step level completion for VPEs. Where are the level completion emails going? There's a whole lot of videos that were put here that are specifically related to Pathways. This takes you to a link, which is, it takes you directly to this right here, which is YouTube. You can go directly to YouTube, and if you search, and it's kind of a long search, D7 Toastmasters Pathways Virtual Academy playlist, you will find all 23 videos that I've done so far on Pathways. Some of those are an hour long, like this one will be. Others are like 4 or 5 minutes. I think the shortest is about 3, because I'm just covering one simple topic, and there's a whole bevy of material here. There's lots of material and lots of places to find information, so hopefully you can find the answer to what you are looking for somewhere on the interwebs. Okay, now let's see here. We got some more chat stuff going on. Okay, one moment here. Gotta wet the whistle. Okay, how are milestones in Pathways celebrated? Okay, we're going to look at badges now, because badges are a pretty cool location that people don't necessarily know about. I'm going back to the home page inside of the Pathways Basecamp. You have the 4th button here called My Badges. My Badges, this is where I'm saying that Pathways took a page from the online gaming industry. I do some online gaming videos, not videos. I play video games. Yeah, I don't do videos of them. I actually play the games. And in the games, you are constantly getting positive reinforcement for doing things. You find a secret level, you get a trophy. You kill a certain amount of people with a bow, you get a trophy. You bake cookies for somebody, you get a trophy. I mean, it's constant reward every time you do something. So that's what this is. That's what all these badges are about. Every time you activate and or complete a level, you will get a badge. You see here, I have this little 3 in the lower right-hand corner of number 1. That means I've completed 3 level 1s. The same with the level 2s. I've completed 3 of those. I've completed 1 level 4, 1 level 3, and the presentation mastery proficient right here means that I've completed the entire presentation mastery path, which is all 5 levels. You'll also see there are other badges hiding around the corners. Right here, visionary communication activated because I started that path. Strategic relationships activated, done that one. Presentation mastery activated because I've done that one too. I've also activated the Pathways mentor program and then completed it. That's what this one is up here. Now, the one badge that I really want to talk about is this right here. Not because I'm exceptional, no, but because of what this badge represents. This particular badge was what another member in my club gave me. They specifically logged into Pathways and decided they wanted to give me a badge. You can give badges to other people in your club for things they're doing in Pathways. I love this, and I hope people find out about it. How do you do that? Well, let me show you where it shows up first. You see up here, you got Basecamp Profile, Feedback, Transcript, and ePortfolio. We're inside of ePortfolio looking at badges. I want to go to Feedback. Now, feedback is different than evaluation. Evaluation is the form that you print out. Feedback is what you can request of people in your club, and it stays specifically inside of Pathways. I can request feedback from various people in my club, and that's exactly what I did. This right here shows the power of feedback for me, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so you can see it. I did a icebreaker back here on October 2nd of last year, and then I sent out a feedback request for how I could improve it. The icebreaker I did was I used PowerPoint and pictures, and I asked for a better way to do that. Right here, the president of my club responded with, well, a more creative use. He included the exact address for the web page of what he was talking about. Pechakucha, over here, typography and kinetic typography design. All I have to do, and it's not a hyperlink, but I can take this address, copy and paste it into my browser, and go directly to the page where he was saying, hey, take a look at this if you want a better way of doing the presentation. This shows me the power of the online feedback section. You can give information directly to people. I don't have to worry about getting it lost on a piece of paper. It's right here in my feedback tab where I can get to it. That's powerful, and I hope more people get to use it. The downside is that when somebody responds to your feedback, you don't get a notification that they said anything, so you kind of have to stumble in here and find out that they did, which is exactly how I found out that I received this badge from another member of my club. She came in and gave me the badge for the work that I did in Pathways, and it shows up in my badges. So this is an immediate response of affirmation from another member in my club of something that I'm doing. And this is fantastic. So not only do we have the badges that we get for completing levels, there are also certificates that you can download. And I'll show you exactly where those are in just a moment, just putting in my brain to remember. Now, this particular badge, if you want to give it to somebody, what do? You see that little search box in the upper right-hand corner? Start typing, just type out club member. If you type out club member and press enter, it'll do a search and you'll get a global search and it's got club member. Now I'm going to switch to people. This will show all of the people in my club that are currently logged in under Pathways. For example, I want to give Paul a badge. So I select Paul's name, which then puts me into his profile, and I go to his feedback tab. Once I'm inside of his feedback tab, I have access to giving him a badge right here on the right-hand side. There's this little ribbon with a medal on it. Once I click that, I can choose any one of these badges that I feel fits him and what he's done, and then add my feedback to it and post it so that this will show up in his badges and on his feedback page. I really hope this becomes a big thing. I hope this is used and encouraged to be used by people in the club, because I think it's pretty cool when you get, that notification, that recognition from another member in your club, which is just outside of regular recognition avenues. So I think this is really cool, and I hope people start using it a whole bunch. I've dropped a bunch of badges on people, and I'm waiting to see if they find them. They're not time bombs. They're just, little nuggets of appreciation that I've thrown their way. Okay, now I want to show you where that printing out your certificate, that's the word I'm looking for. All right, so for that, I need to go back to my profile and not his. So now I am back into mine, going into the educational transcript, because when you complete a level, you get a badge, but you can also print out a transcript. Not a transcript, certificate. Thank you. Stumbling over words here. Going into strategic relationships, we're going to look at the completed level 1. Once you have completed entire level, you see the red check mark on level completion. This button over here changes to view certificate. Once I click on the view certificate, it downloads the level 1 completion certificate for me. And that's what it looks like right there. Name, achieving level 1 strategic relationships. So it says that very specifically. I would strongly suggest printing out the certificates and then, of course, taking them and handing them to somebody in your club and saying, please present this to me. I just had this achievement. Well, if you don't particularly like going and saying, give me an award, the VPE also knows that you have finished this level, because they're the one that put the award in to Toastmasters International. So hopefully the club itself has some form of recognition for level achievements or manual completions. That would be absolutely fantastic. What I did find out, and I did not know before, is that when you complete an entire level path, when you complete an entire path, for example, presentation mastery, Toastmasters International mails you the completed proficient certificate. And I've got mine sitting over on my shelf over there with my DTM medals. They mail it to you, so you don't have to worry about printing it out. It's full color, nice paper, kind of like the certificates that they used to send for the competent communicator, competent leader, et cetera, except it's got the pathways profile, and you can actually see what it looks like by going in here. It's the same style. But they send you one, which is nice to get that in the mail as opposed to having to print it yourself. Because, I mean, my printer's black and white, so I don't get any color out of it.
Hey, okay. James, can you show it off?
The actual... I think I can get to it without destroying the back wall here. Hang on.
That'd be great, man. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. By popular demand, actually, by John Rodkey's demand, here is that certificate.
Yeah, looks great. Good job, James.
So it's a full color with your name on it. It's actually nice, nice hard card stock with the design, the pathways design and everything on it. And they mail it to you, which is really cool. I didn't know about it, and I got it in the mail and went, hey, this is kind of nice. Because I was figuring they wouldn't send out certificates anymore because they've moved to the digital age. Well, I'm still glad that they sent that one out. I like it. Okay. Celebrated. Yes, pathways, finishing level, anticlimax. Well, we encourage members to forge ahead. Well, you get the badges, you get the certificates. Just as much as encouraging people to be involved in clubs, I think clubs should also encourage people to continue being involved in pathways. I haven't had a need to feel that encouragement from my club because, frankly, I'm finding pathways to be fascinating. I love the fact that no one has done the material before. And I like the fact that it's more applicable to my daily life than the legacy system felt. Like those cold sales calls, I never do those. And I just struggled through that. Advanced manual was just completely worthless to me. So being able to pick an elective project that appeals to me, like writing a blog, something I've wanted to do, or creating a social media presence, or doing videos, or doing podcasts, stuff like that, appeals to me because of it feels more relevant to what I'm trying to do. So in that regard, I haven't needed the encouragement to be involved in Pathways. And I'm finding at a lot of the training events that the newer members don't really need that encouragement either, because they're drawn in and this is the path forward. The people that do need the encouragement, and we definitely need to encourage them, are those that are very, very familiar with the legacy system and aren't really looking to change their approach to Toastmasters. They have a social environment and they're very comfortable with it, and they like the presentation of how things have been and new and different things. It's kind of like trying to figure out why do we need this and what am I going to gain from it? And that part of it would be a challenge for a club, for a mentor, for pretty much anybody that's been involved in Toastmasters for a while, is to find that movement forward. And I kind of settled it for myself when I got all bent out of shape that they changed my Toastmasters, when I realized that it's not my Toastmasters. I joined because I found something that I enjoyed and took it upon myself to face the new stuff and to be challenged by it. And once I dove into Pathways, I found that same joy in finding something new and learning. So there is the challenge of technology. A lot of people don't want to use a computer, don't want to interact with things on a cellular phone, etc. And I get that. That is a hard hurdle to get over. I know that there are several clubs that are extremely anti-computer. I laugh because I've had some dealings with the incarcerated clubs, and they can't have computers or access to the internet. So this is a real challenge to them, and they've been working on how to work through these challenges. I also know there are other clubs on the outside that really don't want to have any interaction with computers. So understanding that, it is going to make Pathways a bit of a challenge. And that's going to be a hurdle that the club itself will need to, well, decide if they want to jump over, or how they're going to move forward might be the best way to put it. All right.
In 3 years, it'll all be the way.
Yes, absolutely, which is a good point. We have until June of 2020. Good grief. It's about a year and a half now, for that matter, until Pathways is the only, well, it's the only path in town, really. The legacy system will sunset June of 2020. All of those achievements and manuals will become scratch paper, and we'll move completely into Pathways. I am strongly hoping that Toastmasters continues their tradition of expanding the paths and making things better. They keep updating the website. Some of the glitches and the bugs that I've run into before are gone, which is fantastic. It's a much smoother interaction. I haven't run into as many problems. It is still, some people want it to be a lot more intuitive, and I think intuitive, they mean familiar. Once you've been there for a while, it's going to feel a lot more familiar, and you're going to know how to get around. Okay, yes, it's not just the tech. Find it's difficult to navigate and figure out how to get started. Absolutely. That is a challenge. The software platform that Toastmasters has used for Pathways is a platform that was developed for online universities. So there are a lot of the, how should we say, the architecture for an online university that we don't necessarily need. You know, the transcripts are very important in a university. Launching and marking things and getting them, making sure everything shows up just right is incredibly important for an institution that does a lot of tracking. Well, we're getting that tracking that we don't necessarily need, like the due date. It always says no due date because there are no due dates in Toastmasters, but in the software, this does exist. And to keep costs down, they didn't want to create an entirely new software platform, so they went with Cornerstone On Demand, which is robust and exists and has a lot of support, as opposed to trying to create something brand new. So hopefully with, well, the more you stick your foot in the water, hopefully it becomes a little bit more familiar and you'll realize that they're not swirling barracudas, that they're actually very nice clownfish. Okay, I'm reaching for a metaphor there. But I'm finding that I enjoy pathways, and I hope other people do. I really do. Okay, let's see. For example, I didn't like the path assessment pointing me towards. Yes, absolutely. Had a hard time selecting the path I wanted to engage in. Yes. And that's often because we didn't have the information we need about what the paths are about. Until I found a matrix that laid out the projects. Yes, absolutely. I completely agree with you, Susan, that often having more information is better. I am, I'm an analyst at heart. I love having lots of information on hand before I make a decision. I don't like having all of my choices narrowed down. And it does feel like that's what they've done with Pathways at the beginning. But that restriction to information access has been broadened by all of the different districts in the world putting information out there. And if you go to YouTube and start typing in about Pathways videos, there are hundreds and thousands of videos that are devoted to Pathways. And I am glad to report that there are less and less really nasty, raunchy videos screaming about Pathways than there used to be. It seems that there is a lot more content that is focused on helping people get involved in Pathways, figure Pathways out, work through the challenges, and find the interesting stuff. A while ago, it seemed like it was all kind of a rant and rave session. Now there's some really good videos out there, better than mine by far. Some of the districts have really done a good job, as well as just Toastmasters in general has put out some good video content. Okay, another topic. How are they adapting online pathways to prison clubs? Yes, they are working on that, and it's kind of a struggle right now. I am a prison buddy for somebody who's on the inside, so I'm printing out their material and mailing it into them. They are working out a way where they can check off their projects and move forward, and there's several people in the district that are working on that. If you want more information on that or you want to have a conversation, go ahead and contact me, and we can do that, well, offline, essentially. Holy smokes, look what time it is. It's already the end of the session. Yes, I have rambled, babbled, spoken loquaciously for the last hour, it seems like, taking a few of your questions, and hopefully we have covered some ground that is valuable and rewarding for you. Once again, I do bring you back to these suggestions. Use your phone if you can. Do multiple paths because you'll have multiple things to work on at once, especially if you like having shorter projects available. Print out your manuals if you want. You have that opportunity. Plan your approach to your path. Figure out which way you want to take it so that you yourself get the most benefit out of it. And then for a club, try to incentivize those club roles. So I am going to click the off record button, and then I can answer additional questions beyond that. But thank you very much for being here for all of that, my recorded audio.